lazy? Feeling tired? Can't sleep? Well, join the amazing duo, Lady K and Lady J, for a program which is geared to enrich you, mind, body, and soul, right here on 246 BajanVibesRadio.com, 12 till 3 on a Sundays AM, 7 till 10 p.m., 8 till 11 Eastern Standard Time. Don't you miss it. Feeling lethargic? Feeling lazy?
Hello, 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 hello. How are you guys doing?
Excellent.
Wow, what an interesting topic tonight. Right, Will?
I will say, yeah.
Transformation returning to the past to move forward. I'm going to read that again. Transformation returning to the past to move forward. Many times we are locked away in that zone, and we are pursuing growth. And we often look outward towards new strategies, future goals, and uncharted paths. But true transformation really begins with what lies ahead. It begins with what lies within us and behind us. Today's podcast invites you to explore the power of looking back. Not to relive the past, but to reclaim the wisdom it holds. Whether you've navigating personal reinvention, emotional healing, or recalibration of your life's direction, this reflection-based approach offers a grounded, soulful path forward. Because sometimes the key to becoming who we are meant to be is remembering who we were always been. The past isn't something to escape, because many times we try to escape the past and not realizing that the past really and truly have the answers that we're looking for. And it's a reservoir of insight. Reflection reveals patterns and insights that guide us towards intentional choices. And when we pause to examine our history, personal or cultural, we begin to see the threads that have shaped our identity. What part of your past is asking to be seen? Not to hold you back, but to set you free. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Let it guide your step. In this podcast this evening, it's going to be a renewal because we're going back to the past to renew, right? And many times we are running away from our past, not knowing, as I said before, the past hold the answers to the future. And we got to go within. We got to go within ourselves. And many times we're not going within. We keep running around in circles all the time and not knowing that the answers that we're looking for, it lies within us. So this evening, we just want you to just, whatever you're doing, is just to pause and to sit back and just to listen to this podcast this evening. And if you know someone who can benefit, who is going through that period of transformation and they don't really know which direction to go. This is a very good podcast for them this evening because we're going to be diving deep into this subject area and to give you some strategies and some tools that you can add to your toolbox. So when you're moving forward, you could say to yourself, you know what? I've got these tools. I've really understand the waters that I'm in right now and how I can really navigate in these waters, when I need to pause, when I need to stop, when I need to come to the surface, when I need to go back below, So this podcast is going to really help you to understand the process of transformation, because transformation is a process. You don't just arrive. You got to go through the process of transformation. And the past hold a lot of insights for us. And many times we are trying to get away from that past. We really don't want to revisit it because sometimes it's very painful, But not knowing that the past helps us to move to the future. And when we revisit certain things, we are able to understand, because as we evolve, we understand why things happen. We understand why we go through these experiences, because these experiences that we go through help to shape us. All experiences that we go through in life, it helps to shape us, And Will is here this evening, no stranger to the studio, no stranger to us. And he's going to really help us to really understand how we can go through transformation, look back at the past, and move into the future. So, Will, we just want to welcome you once again to the studio. And we always like when you're here because you always give us your perspective. And it's kind of like a bit of metaphysical way. And we really enjoy that. And as Joan normally hinted to you always talk to the subconscious mind. And that is what we love, because that subconscious mind, there is where we hold all the answers that we need. And when we can talk to the subconscious mind, getting transformation from there, right, Will?
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you once again. It's good to see you, Tommy Thompson. Thank you for being behind the scenes always and getting things really rolling out for us. Thank you as well. And we just want to shout out to the people who always give us great feedbacks, because many times people say to us, something, Lady K and Lady J, when we listen to this podcast, it really helps us to really understand more about ourselves. It really helps us to understand more about the things that we're dealing with at this point in time. And I remember, I think it was this week or last week, someone was saying to us that one of the podcasts that they listened to, they burst into tears because that was a moment that it really touched them, And when you hear these stories, it really helps us to know that, what we are doing, we are really helping humanity. Because when you can be touched by one of these podcasts, it tells us that we are reaching the subconscious mind. Right, Will?
Right. Absolutely right.
We are reaching
transformation.
Absolutely. We are reaching the subconscious mind. And if you know a friend that could really benefit from this subject, kindly share us out. We'd be really appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe to Soul Light and Body, that you will never miss none of these episodes. But now I'm going to toss the mic to Lady J. Lady J, take the mic. Well, welcome once again.
Thank you.
Wow. What a great opening.
Oh, thank you, Lady J.
Well, welcome. Thank you to Tommy Thompson for being behind the scene. What a great subject we're talking tonight.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes it's people are afraid to look back at the past because of what they have been through. But tonight we set the table. Our amazing guest tonight is in the house, Will, who's going to set the tone, how we should look at the subject matter and how to move forward. Don't be afraid about it. Don't be afraid about it because it's part of your life. It's part of what shape who you are. There is where your growth and evolution has move you forward into the future as you continue to step forward. We are in the month of July. Look how far we've come in the year already. Where are you on your journey? Are you being hard on yourself? Are you showing yourself love and compassion? Are you celebrating those wins, big or small? Are you showing yourself grace? You're showing yourself grace because don't be hard on yourself. Yes, you might have started in the beginning of 2025, the commencement. You may say, okay, we all have all these goals and set these lists up that we would like to see happen. But sometimes things take time. So show yourself grace. And know that you are special, know that you are amazing, know that you are unique. And everyone works at their own pace. There is no comparison.
Sure.
We all work at our own pace.
Yes.
Every step we take is to move forward, to attain the goals. Don't worry about somebody else. Focus on you. Are you choosing what is choosing you? What are you choosing? Are you where are you placing your focus?
True.
Your energy, your vibration. When you show up, what do people get?
True.
What is felt in the moment when they
True.
experience you?
True.
When they experience you, what do they feel? What level of energy is being resonated in that moment? How do you make people feel? Whether it's on a phone call, whether it's in a group discussion, how do you make people feel? Because people never forget how you make them feel. When the conversation is ended, when the group discussion is concluded, what the lasting memory they will take from that moment is how you make them feel. What you said to them in the moment that could help them to uplift and help them to better their tomorrow and want to be a better person. That you're tapping into the inner self, the inner being, that they want to live their best, the true essential self. Sometimes you got to look back at the past because looking back at the past, the ultimate is going to help you to shape you, your growth. What are you striving for? What is it that you show up when you come into your higher level? Sometimes when you walking in your higher self, you're different because you're a changed person. Because you're no longer walking in your lower self. Your standards might change. Your boundaries have changed. Because you are moving in a different level. And sometimes you might not be understood. That's okay.
Sure.
Continue to show a level of gratitude for situations that have changed over a period of time. People have changed over a period of time. Friendships have changed over a period of time. What once was, you show a level of gratitude because it was beneficial in the time, in the moment. So you show a level of gratitude and be grateful. And be grateful for the people who you are surrounded by, who uplift you, who motivate you, who inspire you, who help you to believe in yourself. You got to remember those people and then show ourselves gratitude for who we are and who we constantly becoming and embracing our growth and expansion. You focusing on your self-care. That is why we wrote these books. Self-care is intentional. Because focusing on yourself is super important so that you can live your best, be your best. And are you choosing the quality of foods that are going to help you to maintain your microbiome, that you can eliminate brain fog, fatigue, because nourishing and nurturing yourself is important. Are you moving in the level of alignment? Because when you nourish, you eat a good food, a great food, those are the nutrients you're putting into your bodies, making great choices. But are you nourishing the other aspect where you're focusing on self care, your physical activity, your spirituality? How are you navigating with clutter within and your outer? Are you leaning into your inner wisdom and focusing on your inner guidance? Because that's your inner compass, your intuition. And that's so you can use that to help you to make those choices. We're talking to you tonight on a great topic: transformation. Looking back in the past and see what really worked for us and what didn't. And that's okay, because you're moving through guilt, you're moving through regrets. That's okay, because you're not there anymore. But you're learning from the experience of the past, because that is what's shaping you to become, to constantly, because every day we are growing, to be who you are, and so that you can live your best, be your best. Because that's the ultimate goal. You can shine that bright light and illuminate the world. And then you can also help others to shine their light as well. What a beautiful joy that is. And you're creating a level of impact. And you're moving that vibration. So we want to congratulate all of you who taking those bold moves. You're looking back at the past, you're drawing from that, and you're standing stronger and moving forward. So sit back tonight, invite a friend, so they also can benefit. And then you can even journal your own story as this conversation is going forward. Your own story, how you felt about the past, what did it make you feel? What do you draw from that? The great experience, what empower you, and what is helping you to stay solid and strong as you make better choices moving forward. My name is Lady J, certified holistic health and wellness coach, speaker, co-author of books, and so much more. But the joy for us and as we share moments and spaces with great guests every week, is to empower you, to serve you, and help you to live your best in our way that we can offer that to you. So relax, sit back, and enjoy the show tonight. Well, it's always a pleasure and a joy for us to share space with you, because you empower us, you bring us new insights, fresh perspectives on different topics. So it's always a joy. And we just want to say thank you for being here, because we know you're going to speak to the subconscious minds.
Absolutely, I am. Thank you, Lady J. Every time I, and Karen get together, we're kindred spirits. And so we just sort of bounce off of one another, and we're just having a conversation, which is what we're going
Right.
to do tonight too. So everybody else kind of gets to sit in and take part in it if they like to. So we try to encourage people. I know you all the time tell the guests, the audience rather, to ask questions or messages, anything that they can do to interact with us while we're doing the show. And I welcome that as well. If they have a question or two or want to throw in, then feel free to do that. I'll, answer to my best ability, and we'll move you forward. So, in saying that, the show itself is going to be really good. This is a great topic we're talking about. I'm a transformational speaker, and I speak exactly on this topic all the time, as far as trying to get people to be transitional and moving along and move forward, right? I get asked a lot of times, am I a motivational speaker? And I try to tell people all the time that I'm not a motivational speaker, because my belief is that you already have motivation
Right.
within. And what my deal is if I'm speaking with you, is to inspire that motivation that you can actually just get a spark, and then you can start the process of moving forward on. And so that's what I try to do, is just give you that inspiration, something that you already possess. And as I go through what transformation is tonight and going back and moving forward, I'm going to include a lot of that into this conversation. So you're going to be able to see it all works simultaneous. It's one single entity or thing, energy, and you're really not that far off as far as you may think that you are anyway. You're doing this constantly. And a lot of times, when I especially when I'm on this show and I'm talking, I always tell people that a lot of things that we're talking about at that time, you're probably already doing, but the terminology is different. And
Right.
so
Right.
you're thinking of it in a different aspect. And then what I try to do, like I tell people all the time, when I speak as simple as possible using language that energizes. Okay, so what I mean by that is basically I'm speaking to you in a context of language that you use every day, and so I'm not trying to speak to you where you're sort of looking around like, what does that mean? What does that word mean? What is he talking about? Let me look that up real quick. You don't have to do that. So I speak directly to you where you can get the message, and I'm speaking directly to your subconscious all the time. And so, because I want to, like I said, I want to spark that in you that you already have, and get you to retain some of the information to where you can come back and pull it out later and utilize it to your best ability to move you forward and get you where you want to go and obtain the things in life that you are, worthy of and deserve actually. And so that's why this conversation is going to be so interesting. Okay, so let's get into this. I'm Will Williams, as most of you who watch the show often know I'm a reoccurring guest on the show. And so I come on and these ladies find good topics for me to talk about, and that's what we're going to do, talking about transformation. So, first of all, what exactly is transformation? And I'm going to speak to this from, like I always do, a spiritual perspective, metaphysical perspective, and then in general context of what it is. So I'm trying to connect with you on every level so I can put that in you that you can see that you've already been doing a lot of this, but you haven't cataloged it or put it in a category to where you can process it afterward. It actually becomes something that you can, utilize and realize that that's what you're doing. So you're not doing it one time and then it disappears and you don't know what you did to get yourself in this position. So I'm trying to get you to utilize the way I do is where it can continually rebuild and recycle you into where you can move forward, right? So now they gave me this topic of moving to the past to come forward, right? So I'm going to give you a good, fun, short story to go along with this, and I'm going to open up with this before I get to the topic itself, right? So in moving backwards, and it's going to be fun because we've all had this situation at one time or another happen to us, either in adulthood or sometime during your teenage years. You've experienced this, right? So in my young days, about age between 18 and 19 years old, I had a really, really, really nice car, right? And so I had a couple of friends stayed in a really nice neighborhood I go, visit with pretty often. And I went to visit this particular friend this one day, and I was leaving his house. And as I'm leaving, I'm driving down the street, and there's this young lady out in the front yard, and she's watering the grass. I hadn't seen her before, the times that I've been out, and I had never seen her. So I'm coming down the street, and she looks up and she sees the car. The car was really nice, had a nice color to it, so you would look at it more than one time. If you saw it, you would look at it more than once because I had it really, dressed up. I like cars, and so I put a lot into them. So it was clean and flashy, right? So as she's looking at it as I'm passing her house, I sort of look over and I make eye contact with her. So of course, in me, I'm not afraid to meet people, so I back up and I park. I get out of the car and I go up, walk up their driveway, and she's standing there watering the grass, and we get to talking. We have a good, probably 15-minute conversation. Okay, conversation went nice and everything. She told me, "Hey, would you like to hang out?" And I told her yes, and so she invited me to come back. So the next day, I go back to the house. This time, her mother is out in the front yard, and I get out. I park the car. The mother is relaxed and calm and everything. I walk up the driveway. The mother's still standing there watering the grass. And she said, "What can I do for you?" And what I had not done during the whole 15 minutes that I talked to her daughter is got her name. So I had no idea what her daughter's name was. And so I told her I was there to see her daughter. She said, what's my daughter's name? And I'm thinking, I'm like, I know she mentioned her name maybe once or twice. I couldn't think of her name because I never asked for it, right? And so I told her, I said, well, I can't recall what her name is. So she said, look, you seem like you're a pretty nice young man. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an opportunity. Not today, though, but not today. But if you should ever remember my daughter's name, come back and ring my doorbell. So I left her house, and my friend, of course, knew her, but I told him the story, so he wouldn't give me her name. And I didn't know anybody else on the street, so I couldn't just stop and ask anybody. And so I ended up missing out on an opportunity. I thought I was going to get to date this girl because I'd already made up my mind. By the time I got out of my car and walked around, I said, that's going to be my girlfriend. And so I lost it. Didn't get a chance to date her. And so it took about 5 years later before it hit me. One day I was kind of walking and this name just popped into my head, right? And I'm like, who is that? Who is that? Brianna. Who is Brianna? Oh, it dawned on me that during our conversation, she mentioned her name. And that replayed in my mind. At that moment, I could see her face and her telling me her name was Brianna. But I couldn't recall it when I left her house. So 5 years later, I remembered her name was Brianna. But it was too late. I missed out on my opportunity. Who knows what my life would have ended up going had I dated her, So that's kind of what transformation is. But this is what I did. After I left their house that evening rather, and a few years later after that, I told myself, I said, okay, I will never, ever, ever forget another pretty woman's name. If she introduces herself just in casual passing, I'm going to remember that woman's name. And to this day, if I meet somebody, I'll automatically relate their name to something so I can recall their name.
Right.
But see, I didn't have the tricks of the trade at that point in time. I was only 18, 19 years old, so I didn't know about that trick. And, I just casually have always remembered that. So now when I'm in meetings or something, or I'm in big settings and people are coming up and you only have a few seconds that you're introducing yourself to somebody, they introduce themselves to you before you move on. I, find something that I can attach their name to.
Right.
So if I see them again, I can recall who they are by their name, So and I talked about this before. I told you, about my Rolodex being over 600 names strong. I have 2 phones and they're full. And so I don't remember all of those people's names. And in the lifetime, I mentioned this before because there's data out there on this. In your lifetime, you have about 600 people that you meet. Now, 1,500 total lifetime, right? But you have about 600 people that's in your acquaintances list and associates, which narrows down to about 10 to 15 people. Then your inner circle is no more than usually 5 people, right? I know all of those people's names. And so those people, even if we don't talk for a few years, I know who they are by name, right? And then my acquaintance list is a whole different ballgame. That's transformation for you, back and forth, right? So I just took you back to my past to bring you back to the future. and I wanted you to travel with me back because, like I said at the beginning of that, all of us have had that experience at least once in our lifetime where we met somebody and could not recall who they were after that brief conversation. You may not, remember who their name was. But you know their face if you saw them, but you wouldn't recall who their name is. And funny thing about that is that when you do re-engage with someone and you can't recall their name right off the top of your head, so to speak, you just sort of greet them. They don't know you don't know their name. You just say, hey, how are you doing? And eventually they'll get around to, telling you who they are because you may ask a question in reference to where they have to say their name. And then they don't know if they just told you who they were but by name, but you don't know.
Right.
So that's a part of the story I wanted to share to get you into this transformation aspect. Now, when we talk about transformation itself, it's talking about identity, right? And I use it like in the context of identification and opportunities, vision of your future, action plan, and work things through your problems, right? Work through problems, right? So that's all transformation really is now in simple terms, right? Now, I like to tie this into spirituality, like I always tell you when I'm all speaking. So I'm going to go to 2 Corinthians 3:18, and it's really short. It says, "Life journey," which means joy and pains of life. That's all transformation is you going back and forth between the joys of life and the pains of life. So those two things are always happening on your process of your journey. You're always going to engage in some joy, some really high moments, and then there are going to be
Mhm.
those really low moments that hurt you, and you figure I might not be able to get up out of the bed tomorrow and look at the world, but you have to because it's not the end of your journey. So I like to look at it from that perspective. And now as we move through, the next part of this thing is talking about maintaining transformation,
Mm.
which is crucial because if you transform, which is a process I'm going to get deeper into as we go. I'm just getting this, opening the door, and we're going to walk through, and then we're going to go through the process. But in order to maintain it, which is the key to holding on to transformation, it's one thing to transform, but then who do you become after that? Can
Sure.
you hold on to that? Will you go back to the old you? And so that's what a lot of people get lost at is they can transform for a week or two and maybe even hold it for a month. But then they will gradually, you see this a lot in your workouts, like people used to, we don't talk about it that often anymore, where every year people would make this big proclamation of I'm going to work out more, I'm going to get in shape, I'm going to exercise. And for about 2 weeks, they all in. They talking about exercising, telling you what's going on, and they're excited about going to the gym, seeing new people around, the place and meeting. And about the third week, uh, something may, they may have injured themselves to a degree. And so that gives them an excuse not to go. And then they gradually just go back to what they were doing. So it's not easy to maintain transformation. It's a process. It's something that you really have to really endure yourself with to absorb what you want to become, right? And so you have to go through a process. Now, when you maintain it, and this takes courage, choices, and being curious to do that. Now, it also involves a big part of consciousness, which we're going to discuss too, because I'm going to use a little bit of neuroscience to talk about the aspects of consciousness, because consciousness itself is a big word that's thrown around a whole lot, but most people don't know what that actually means. They think it becomes a deity or an entity of some kind, and that's not what consciousness is. It's something it's awareness basically. Is what it is. I'll just cut to the chase. That's basically consciousness is an awareness of you being aware of you, everything around you, what's happening in your life, your spirit. That's what it becomes, right? And so you have to have those things aligned in order to maintain it. That's the top stuff. Now, but it also comes down to what do you believe in, your values, your actions that you're going to take to maintain it, and also the identity that you're going to attach to this transformation. Who do you become? What are you going to do as you get into that? Now that entails a little bit of perspective, which basically perspective is a long word, but in short, it basically just means your opinion. That's pretty much. I talked about that. I think a few weeks ago on one of these shows we did. But that's all perspective is. It's your opinion. And so those things all, what we're trying to do is build a foundation. All the things I just mentioned, those are part of your foundation that you're going to put in place to hold this transformation together as you move. Because again, you're going to run into some challenges still, right? And during the process of those challenges, because I just mentioned 2 Corinthians 3:18, life journey. That means joy and pain. Okay. So as you're starting to build your foundation, you're going to run through the process of being challenged. So will these things hold together to maintain your new identity that you want to transform into and the things that you want to accomplish and achieve and going through this transformation? It's something that you said that you're going to commit yourself to obtain the goals that you think you want to do, right? But here's the thing that's going on in neuroscience about consciousness, right? They're discovering that the brain basically keeps you in the present moment. Okay? So when we're talking about past, which I just gave you a story about the past, right? And then we're talking about future. We've talked about this before on the show with between Joan and Lady K. The present is all you really have. Your past and your future is all happening at the same time. There are only a few split seconds between what's going on. So that's where consciousness lives within the brain, right? It's always giving you a story to relate to your past. So that's why everything that you're going to do in life in the future, you've already done it, but you don't realize that. It's just done in smaller, intricate, to where it's all being pieced together. And so the experiences that you have in your past, that's going to be your future, but it's going to be at a different level because hopefully you've grown. And
Right.
you've grown, you're going to be able to see this. Now, see, this is where people get lost at, Lady K, because they don't understand that, because they're looking for something outside of themselves.
Right.
Awareness is within you.
Absolutely.
Okay? You are the awareness, but you don't realize that. So you're looking for something outside of you to save you, to enrich you, to make things better for you. And then you hear this reinforced and a false sense of you go to situations where dogma is taught, right? And so you think that that's really what's going on. That's what's happening. But it's actually you always have everything that you need. It's always with you already. You're just not aware of it. Because remember what I said, awareness is basically you knowing that you exist and the things around you. That's all awareness is. That's all consciousness actually is. And as I told you, they're working on.
We can't hear you well. But the thing is that we always look outside,
Right.
We always look outside and not realizing that we have the answers within ourselves.
Of course.
And it's only when we really start to tap in to that space within ourselves, we really truly understand who we are.
Exactly.
And the experiences that we go through in life, we need
Okay, am I
those.
on?
You're back.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, finish what you were saying.
The experiences, the situations, the friendships, the relationships, all these things that we go through in life, we need it in order to evolve.
Of course.
Absolutely.
That is why we don't curse the past.
No, never.
We need the past to move forward into the future.
You have to have.
And many times we got to revisit, we got to reframe a lot of stuff. Because in order for us to go, we got to revisit, we got to reframe, we got to reclaim, before, because we need clarity. A lot of times the only thing that's holding us back is clarity. And the clarity is within us. Only if we can pause and pivot and recalibrate and look within ourselves, we have all the answers that we need.
Right.
Many times we are placed into relationships with people in order to bring those things to the surface, because it's within us. So we go into relationships, we go into spaces, and it's to bring up what is already within us. That is why when sometimes you go into relationships or spaces, you get angry, you get agitated, because the things that making you angry and agitated is things that need to heal,
From your
Yeah.
past.
and it's your past showing up
Right, of course.
within you now to help you to heal. But many times we run away from it, not because we run because we don't understand.
Right,
Many
Right.
times we are running because we don't understand, and many times we are running because we are not at that place of self-awareness. And because we are not at that place of self-awareness, we cannot understand what is happening. But as soon as we arrive to that place of self-awareness, we understand exactly what is happening. And
Right.
that is why
right,
when we revisit the past now, we can able to understand why we went through these processes to arrive where we are at this point in time.
right. And to me, or finish your sentence there, because I was just going to add another layer in that. That is why it is so important to not have a fixed mindset,
I
because
was
your
going to get to that.
mindset is very
Sure.
important,
Yes.
That's right.
right?
That's right.
As you move from the past, you step forward, and you now has grown, because that has shaped you. You've grown. You become I don't want to say new person, but you have evolved on a level.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That level of growth, you can look back at at your past with fresh eyes, because you're grown. You have a different mindset, and so then you can look and able to draw the level of experience, what worked for you then and what did not, and really why did not work. But you're gathering information, right? And that has helped you to attain a better perspective, new skills, greater insights, so that you can move forward, stepping in the future with new lens. Because as you spoke about, Miss K, Lady K, you talk about clarity, and Will, you talk about awareness. And when we can have that level of alignment with those things lining up together, be more self-assured. We have a level of confidence. And so we're sure how we move forward. And as we step forward, and we can able to make the choices, choose what chooses us, right? And able to put our energy and our vibration in a new level, and focus in the places where can really elevate us even further to live our higher self.
That's right.
Well,
That's right. Ah,
And
oh,
I
you not
want to
even
say one thing
kidding.
before we move forward, right?
Go ahead, Karen.
You cannot change what you don't understand.
That's true.
no, you can't.
That's the
Absolutely.
problem. That's the biggest problem is
That's the
most
biggest
people
problem. You
don't
can't change what you
understand.
don't understand.
No,
Exactly.
you can't.
You really cannot. Now, what I was going to say this before I lost my sound here. Uh, Consciousness is basically like a shifting of life experiences. Everything that you've experienced, which you both you two ladies just covered this, from your past, those experiences are part of your consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you get your story patterns from, the storylines. It tells you stories all the time. That's why you're so used to hearing stories, because in your conscious, that's what you're being relayed through from the brain. It connects patterns. That's why you're going to repeat
Right.
whatever it is that you did in your past is going to be repeated in the future, because your brain recognizes the pattern of that. Now, it can be done at a different level to where it's not the same mistakes are made. That's the thing. If you understand your awareness, then you won't make those same mistakes. But it'll be based off of that pattern that you've already experienced before. See, this life is not as tricky. Now we're getting to a stage now to where if you really want to understand it, oh, you can just open. If you open yourself up to this knowledge,
Right. You have to open
you will,
yourself up.
yeah, you will not be, you won't be asleep any longer. Let's just put it that way. You will see the world for what it actually is and what it always has been and what it's going to be moving forward. There is so much to this world that you don't see because you closed yourself off and allowed yourself to get put in a box where you think that you need something that's outside of you to show you the way, find answers for you. If you realize what you really are, and I talk about the Bible a lot because the Bible is not what you think it is. So I can talk to you about it from the perspective of what it actually is. If you get out of the dogma part of it, it'll tell you what it actually is if you read it, but you won't read because you're too busy listening and being told what it is. But if you read it for yourself, it will knock you out of your shoes from that perspective. I'm not talking about in fear. You won't be afraid of it any longer to where you think something is watching you and punishing you for this and making people good over here. All of that is dogma. If you really know what's in that book, it will give you everything that you want, desire, and think you deserve. It's all there. It's written in a code. And if you can understand what the code is, now you can play the game. That's all these people have been doing all these time. And I'm gonna leave that to the next show because we get too juicy for us and we close it all after this one. But all of that basically covers. There are parts of you who cheerlead you, which is your motivation aspect of it, right? That's part of consciousness too. All this is things that you hold within you. Now we were talking about the part of building the foundation of it now, but to complete the realignment of self, which is basically what you have to do in order to transform, you have to bring understanding. Karen just said this. You have to bring understanding over prejudgment or judgment itself. If you can open yourself up to be understanding of somebody else without judging them or prejudging them, now you can see yourself in them. Now you can actually see that you are not different from them. They are you. You are they. They're just in a different part of time of their life, of their existence. So in some aspect, if you're very successful, you're part of somebody who's standing on the corner right now asking for just $1. Mm-hmm. You may have $1 billion. They begging for one measly dollar. That person is part of you. That's part of you on that corner too. But what we've gotten lost in is our own selfishness, to where if I have $1 billion, I have $1 billion, but that doesn't mean I'm taking care of any other piece of the world. I want to be known as a billionaire. And so why would I take 500 million of that and, elevate some people? I just seen a story about the actor Clint Eastwood, right? He's 94 years old. He's worth over $400 million. He said that the only way he obtained this $400 million that he has is by people supporting his movies. He wrote a script, created this process. People enjoyed it enough to pay money to go see it, right? So what he's doing, he's not leaving his $400 million to any foundation, any organization, anything like that. He's leaving $30,000 a pop to families all over the United States and the world. $400 million. Now, that's a lot of money if we are to say money is worth anything, but he's leaving at least $30,000 that's going to change some people's lives when he goes.
That's beautiful.
Okay, so that's the future of what we're going to. We still have people trying to take us back to the past. That world don't exist anymore. That's over with. So all of this go back and all that's over. That's done. The future that we're moving toward is a solution-based world. So everybody's going to interact with and try to make sure that their brother, they're not going to be their brother's keeper, but they're going to make sure that, like we just had a bill signed by our president that's taking people and putting stress on their lives now that could exist basically before he signed this bill. But now they're going to have to try to figure out a way, an economy that's falling apart, not going to be rebuilt in the old model, but he's thinking, okay, I just signed this and we'll just go and dig up some stuff here and there and it'll be all right. Those people are not going to be able to get jobs in the old economy. That don't exist. What do you think AI is doing? It's creating a whole new system for us. So that's part of this transformation. So as we go through this complete realignment of self, I just mentioned about, understanding and not prejudging or judging people, right? It also increases knowledge, sense of knowing. That's what transformation is going to be doing for you. It's intellectual stimulation. You know, more people want to know things now, so they're hungry for knowledge. That's the
Right.
kind of economy and world that we're moving into. But here's the thing about knowledge, though. It's not so much the knowledge that you have, it's what do you do with that knowledge.
True.
We've got plenty of people walking around with big titles, but what do you do with that knowledge? You can take somebody now in this new economy and they can create something. Like I said before, I think on the last show I mentioned this because I wrote an article about this. One person moving forward in the future, if we're going to say that a billionaire is, you know, really valuable person to the world, one person can become a billionaire with an AI. And all he's going to need, or she's going to need, depending on what product or service that they're creating and going to operate from, is employees. But they're not going to need a front office group of people to maintain the business, though. AI is going to be able to do all of that. It can interact with you on telephone calls. It can make sales calls if you give it the direction, the prompt for it to do. It'll call you and try to sell you something. AI is very good. We're not at the stage where people are really utilizing the strength of AI yet. We still have people playing around with it and, you know, writing stuff with it, but it's far more than that. That's AI is something it's going to change everything that you do in this world, you know. And right now, as we go through this again, transformation, it's about intellectual stimulation, inspiration, idealistic and unseen, not produced, visible opportunities. That's what AI is bringing. That's part of this transformation. So as you go back and come forward, make it to where your awareness, which again, what is awareness? Presence. That's all it actually is, presence. You being in the right now. As we're talking right now, we're in the present time. We're in the present moment. And so nothing else exists right now while we're doing this show. I mean, you know, if something comes up and we have to get away, I'll go off camera or something like that, we'll do that. As Lady J just did, we saw she disappeared for a minute, she came back, right? But it's about the presence of it, though. So that's how transformation is you be in the moment of right now. That's your presence, your future, and your past. They're all simultaneously connected. And as long as you connect those dots, then you can start seeing the world and move it in a different direction. Like I mentioned this, I think on the show last week, Lady J, when you were hosting the show together, and I came in the show, right? Okay, when you speak today, because of what we're doing right now, everything is faster. So your dialogue has to be fast in order to connect with people. If you speak really, really slow, they're not going to hear you. You're not going to be able to hold their attention.
Right.
You're going to lose their attention because we're in our listening processes have been speeded up without us actually noticing it. As TikTok is we call a 30-second, short. Your listening ability has actually transformed into that too. So if for instance we were doing this show right as we're doing it right now, if all three of us were speaking any slower than what we are right now to connect with you, you tune us out. You would tune us out. You would say there's no message for you there. There's no value for me to be listening to that show. What am I supposed to get out of that? I mean, please, they talking too slow. I got things to do. But as we speak right now, we're speaking to you in a rhythm that's within your listening ability, but you're not paying any attention to that because we're on the same frequency with you. So we talk about energy and frequency connection. A lot of this is being done without you even noticing it's being done. Lady K, I know you got something to say, so I'm going to shut up and let you say it. I can see it. It wants to come out.
Yeah.
When you're talking
that's the energy. It's energetic.
When you're talking about AI, you know what comes to mind right away is that we're talking about transformation and we are talking about your past, right?
Right.
So you know what happened? AI was always there.
Always.
AI was always there. But you know what they did? They used the past and transform. You understand? And it
Say it
looked like
again.
it is something that is new.
Say it again. Say
But
it
it was
again.
always there.
Always.
But we
Always.
never recognized what was happening behind the scenes.
That's right.
It was always there. But you see, that's the beauty. And it could teach us something that we could use the past, our mistakes, our experiences, our situations that we
Uh-huh.
go through, and use it to bring us to something that is really exciting, fascinating, is gathering all that you need from the past
Right.
and bring it into the
That's
present
right.
moment that you live.
Right.
You know,
Redirection.
absolutely. And that is how you're going to reframe. You revisit, you reframe. And as you reframe things, you understand, as
That's
I
right.
said before, why these things happen. AI was always there.
Always.
It was always there. We go on Google, we ask a question, they pop up, they show me so many websites we could get on, right? That been there for years.
Yes.
All these search engines was there for years. But
Uh-huh.
you know what? They gather all that information and understand people. They understand us, what we are looking for. And they only perfect it to something we now understand it's AI. But it was there, right, Will?
That's right.
Right.
Always.
And
Lady
I
J?
think we come sorry, we come to a new level of understanding now, which is good.
Yes.
As we continue to tap in, then we are truly marvel and amazed. Oh my goodness, I can do this. Oh, I can do that. I can just ask a question and AI can give me what the answers I need and help me. I just want to jump in there quick too before you speak. Well, the radio show we talked to you about, which was Open Doors, and
Right.
there was a moment that you spoke about the generalists and the specialists,
Uh-huh.
right? Which was so beautifully put, because exactly that is what it is.
Yes.
I'm putting you in the spot for the audience who have not heard that. Just talk a little bit about that. I know this is a question just jump right in, but seeing that it just
Okay, no, no,
drop
no.
into my spirit,
That's
talk
what
about
we
that
know,
since
you
we're on the
know.
topic of AI as well.
Right. Okay, so in business, right? There's going to be a plateau that you're going to reach if you create a business that you're going to go to that you flatten out. And you get to this plateau and you can't take the business any further than that. So there's no scale for it to go in, or new markets for you to venture into, because you basically have taken it as far as your talent allows you to do so, right? So you bring in a generalist who's going to format the company and lay out a brand new plan for it to move forward on, right? Now, the generalist will then bring in a specialist, or either you will have a less than an ego and say, okay, you know what? I need a specialist too. What kind of products do we need to move this thing forward with, our services? They come in and create the new products or services that you need. So then you step back and allow those people to do the work that you've hired them to do, and your company will not only gain market share, but it will scale.
True.
That's what a generalist and a specialist are bought in for. That's what the key of this thing is right there. That's why you bring them in. Now, this leads me to something, Lady J, because you mentioned mindfulness, right? And guess what mindfulness is in transformation? It's to simply be. Be who you are.
Be who
Exist
you
as
are.
you are. That's
Yes.
what mindfulness is. If you, Lady K, we have to probably keep going back to this, but she said this. You have to have an understanding of the things that you're experiencing so you can take those experiences and grow from them.
Of
If you can
course.
do that, you become everything that you tell that you can be. You think you see in somebody else, all of that is already encapsulated within you. It's already there. This stuff is not that difficult once you really take time to understand who you are.
Yeah.
You've been stripped down to where you think that you can't, and so that's what's holding you back. In
Mhm.
spiritual terms, Lady J just covered this, and Lady K mentioned this. In spirituality, you shift, right? But
Mhm.
when you shift, it becomes a divine flow state. So we're talking about
Love
flow
that.
state with Lady
Divine
J.
flow
Lady J just
state.
said all of this stuff has already been here. That's a state of mind you've always had. You've always had it. You just didn't know what it was and how to utilize it. You have moments to where you use it and then you let it go away and you say, okay, that was my moment in the sun. And you
Yeah.
don't think that once you learn how to really see what
Tap
you
in.
have, who
Tap
you
in.
are, what you can do, the world is open to you. Lady J, Lady K, I can see you want to say something again. I can feel that
No,
energy.
go
So
ahead,
go ahead
Bella.
and jump
Go
in.
ahead. Go.
That
Come
that
on.
is so beautiful that you say. I like when you say flow state, because you really have to tap in, because when you
Yeah,
can tap into that and feel that sense of knowing, that intuitiveness within you, and it's a sense of knowing. So you're going deep, you're diving deep within yourself. There is where the self discovery comes into play, because
absolutely.
knowing who you are and you tapping in to everything, all the endless possibilities that you can go there and have that sense of knowing, and
Yeah,
pausing and having that whisper, and just listening. And when you can get into that zone and into that flow, as you call it, divine flow state, when you can go there, a lot of things can happen.
it
But
can happen.
what hinders us? What hinders one from not staying and really immersing into that flow state? What hinders us not
Go
staying
ahead,
there?
Karen. I see you want to come in on this one. Come on. We're waiting.
Yeah. What
You
hinders
know,
us?
the thing is that, as I said before, we cannot change what we don't understand,
That's
right?
true.
Hmm.
That's true.
And in order for us to understand, we need to take action,
Inspired
right?
action. Yeah.
We need, all right, Joan, inspired action.
Yeah.
We need to take action in order to understand what really happening at the moment, you
Yeah,
know. And the thing is that if we don't put in the work, we cannot get the results.
that's true.
We got we got to put in that work in order to get the results that we really aspiring for. And it requires us to be disciplined. It required us to, if you got to keep revisiting certain situations just to get the clarity that you need for yourself in order to move forward, because many times it only needs us to have that clarity, you know and the clarity is within us. The
It is
clarity is
exactly within
within
us.
us, because
That's it.
sometimes somebody might say, but something, Karen, okay, fine, maybe I come into a bad marriage or a bad relationship, blah blah blah, whatever it is, right?
Right, right.
But the clarity, you have the clarity. If you really understand, you have that clarity. Many times you don't really need to go to that person to get that
No,
clarity.
no, you
No.
don't.
You have that clarity
You have
within
it.
yourself.
Right.
Exactly. You have it.
You have that clarity. And when that is why you got to revisit. When you revisit and analyze the situation
That's it.
without judgment. Because many times we go back and we revisit, but we go with judgment. We start blaming people. And when you start to do that, you can't get the clarity that you're looking for. You got to go back to that situation. You got to make peace with your past. When you make the peace with your past, then you really understand the past so you can move into the future.
That's it.
But if you don't make peace with the past and understand the past, you cannot go into the
And
future.
can't do it.
It's not
You
going to
can.
work.
And
It's not going to
and
work.
and I just want to add another layer in that. That is why it's important for pausing and asking yourself the question, what am
Yes,
I feeling? And is this feelings belong to me?
true.
That's right.
Right?
That's
You
right.
got to ask those questions. It is essential, so that when you're stripping all that away, because you're looking at the past and you examine all those level of emotion and everything and the experience,
Yes,
because for you to move forward, you have to ask those essential questions so that you can have a level of clarity and that you can look at things from a clearer advantage and new insight perspectives, and so that you can be stronger moving forward
That's
and
right.
have the level of resilience that I have handled this. I've looked at it from all areas, and who am I in this moment, right?
There you, there you
And
go.
when you ask those yourself those questions, and then you also reminding yourself, you're repeating your I ams, because I am capable, I
Yes,
am enough, because what follows our I ams are super important as
right.
well.
Yes, you become. You
You
become.
become, and so as you getting ready to trust into the future, you handling your I am, because you already look at the past, you've dealt with the guilt, you've dealt with the rejection, you've dealt with all of that. And so you're moving, because now you're redirecting yourself forward, and you
Right.
now you're taking those necessary steps, your values, you're setting those boundaries, you're walking differently.
That's right.
First, because then you know who you are. You've worked in
That's the
those
key.
self-discovery.
That's the
You
key.
know who you are. You lean into your inner wisdom. You lean into your inner being. You're following your guidance now, that level of intuition. You're embracing that, the sense of knowing.
Except,
And now you
yeah,
can step forward stronger, better, rising higher, because you moved through that. You dealt with it.
there you go. You know, in Hinduism, they have a saying. It's called, let's see, thou art that. And what that translates into is you are that.
You are
Uh,
that.
you are the divine. Basically, is what it is,
Mhm.
which is what you two ladies just said, right? When you're in the moment, that's that's the zone. That's the zone.
That is the
Is
zone.
you be in the moment. That's in athletics when you hear the term they're in the zone, or that's all it is being in that moment. Nothing else is on your thought pattern or in your thought pattern except for that brief moment. That's the zone. That's it. That's all this is. So a lot of this stuff has been dressed up more than what it needed to be dressed up. And then we bought into the dressing up part. You know, you got some people like they put clothes on and all of a sudden they become sophisticated. And you're like, wait a minute, that's what the hell we talking about? You just dressed up. You still
Mhm.
oh no, that's not class. That class don't even really exist. It's a made up concept. What the hell are we talking
Mhm.
about? So, you know, that's basically what you ladies just covered though. Go ahead, Lady K. I know you had to say something. Go ahead.
The thing is that we need to we need to look also as at transforming into momentum,
Yes.
because when we gather the information from the past, you know, it helps us with the transition.
Right. Right.
It
It
gives
does.
us the momentum that we need to move from here to go to here. And
Yes.
in
Right.
that gap there, that transitioning gap, there is where what we gather from the past, we use it in that transformational gap
Mm-hmm.
as the foundation that we can stand on in order to go forward.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
you're closing the gap.
Yes.
You're closing the gap.
And
Takes it,
self-awareness help us to close that gap.
of
That's
course,
right.
and also it takes courage.
Yes. I
It
mentioned
takes
that
courage.
because you can't do any of this without any courage. If
No,
you're going
you
to be
can't.
fearful,
Absolutely.
you
You
can't do it.
cannot. And it
You can't do it.
requires a level of confidence, because you got to believe in yourself.
True.
Yes. Yes.
You've got to
Yes.
believe in yourself. I'm just jumping back to the conversation we had where we talk about closing and open doors, and it requires you to have a level of confidence, because in that conversation we had, when we spoke about, if the door is just a little crack,
Right.
and you have to have the level of confidence, and you had the readiness and the preparedness, so that I'm going to move forward, because I know that I have what it takes. I'm capable. I am
Right.
enough. And
Right.
so even though it's a little crack, there's an opportunity. I'm going to step into it, because I know I'm ready. I'm prepared, and I
Yes.
have the
See
level of
that
confidence. I'm going
takes
to move forward.
yes. Excuse me for cutting in on you, Lady
No,
J.
no, it's okay.
No, but you just touched on a very important point there, because that courage goes back to the opening that I used for the story, right? The little short story. Now, had I not had the courage to stop it in front of that girl's house while she's out watering the grass, I would have just, admired her and kept going. But I had successes in meeting girls all the way up to that point. So she was just another girl to me. So I figured that all she can do is tell me, I'm not interested in talking to you. I haven't lost anything. It won't hurt that's not going to bruise my ego. So I pull back and I park and I go up, and because I had the courage to do so. So that's what you just mentioned. See, so transformation is built around the foundation of it is not that complicated for you to put and move forward on, right? Because you take your past successes, I don't care how small they were successes. And Karen just mentioned, you bring those successes forward with you, as Lady J just said, and now you can cap all of that energy into one big ball and make whatever you're trying to do, it can happen for you now, because you have the ability to think that I can do this.
I'm capable.
That's all you need, is I can do this. She said, I am. If you tell yourself, I am capable of doing this, you're going to absolutely be able to do that. It may be still difficult, but you will be able to do it. You have to believe that you can. You have to believe. You want to say something, Lady K?
No.
Okay, because you get me to a good point here that I think is important here, because I want to use this as an example, right? We all know the story of Adam and Eve. Now, while they're in the garden, this is gonna blow people's heads off too. Okay, God tells them that if they eat from the tree of knowledge, He's going to kill them. Not tomorrow, not the next day. He said immediately, if you take one fruit from this tree of knowledge, I'm going to kill you. So now, when the serpent shows up, the serpent said, hold on, Eve, let me holler at you for a second here, okay? Let me go down here to the street level training. Let me holler at you for a second. So he tells Eve to come over. Hey, look, if you bite this apple from this tree, you won't be in the dark any longer. You're going to be able to see. It's going to give you knowledge. So if you take a bite from this apple, everything that you ever wanted to know, you will now know. Now, at the same time, he tells her, but now, I know God came through here about an hour or so ago, and he told you, hey, don't ever mess with this tree of knowledge, because you don't need to know that, and there's no sense of you having any knowledge. I'm the only person you need to know is the thing. Whatever I say to you, that's gold. You can take it and go to the bank with it, right? But the serpent tells her, eat from this tree and you will no longer be in the dark. Now, in that scenario, and if you read that story really careful, that gives you a different look on which one of those deities is misleading Eve and Adam. Because here's the wrap-up part of this. When God does come back after they both have eaten this apple, taken a bite out of this apple, he asks Adam, where art thou? Now he's God. they in his garden. He created the garden. So there's no place in this garden that Adam should be able to hide from somebody who created the garden. So why is he asking Adam, hey, tell me where you hiding at, and then we can have this conversation about why you ate out the tree. So you see, when you start opening the Bible and actually read the Bible for what it actually is, you will see the Bible in a whole different way. And you will see the stories that's within the Bible are not what you've been told they were once you actually read them to understand. Don't read them for fear. That's what transformation is. Read it to understand what it actually is. Once you do that, you will see that story in the context that it actually is. And then you'll ask the question also is, why did God tell Moses to put a serpent on the top of his pole to show the people? And the people that looked upon this serpent would live forever. Now, why would he tell him that when the serpent was supposed to be a bad guy? Because he told them how, to told Adam and Eve to eat off this apple. He's supposed to be bad. But then God tells Moses, hey, put this serpent head on top. He tells him how to build it out of. He builds it out of copper. He puts it on the staff, which is a stick. And he tells them, everybody that passes this staff and looks upon this serpent will live forever. Now, why would he tell him that if the serpent is supposed to be such a bad guy? You see? So a lot of this stuff, once you actually see how this world actually operates, you won't see the world the same way. You won't have blinders on. It will open your eyes and you will see the world in a totally different way. Totally different way. And so I just said that to put it on. Your transformation has to be where you see everything. You don't put your world into little blocks and say, okay, I'll go for this over here, but I won't go for that over there. I'll judge this over here, but I won't judge that over there. And I'm afraid of that right there. So it's really sense of me even thinking about that. No, 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 no. You will open yourself up to where you can see the entire world. And once you see the entire world, oh, you won't think that, as a woman especially, you won't think you came from some man's rib, and you will know the truth. You will know that you are everything that you've ever really needed. Everything. So, you know, we're going to do a show. I know Joan mentioned this before to me about male-female energy, and I'm looking forward to doing that show, Joe. I have some really good stuff on that show. So whenever we get to do that show,
Yeah.
oh, it's going to put people away. But we have this thing where women, and we're in the era now where, since I have two ladies on this panel with me tonight, I'm just a guest. I'm their guest. But we're moving into a world where women are regaining their power. They've always, ladies have always had power, always possessed power, always created. And so a few jealous, insecure men switch things up, and the world's been that way ever since. But we're in an era now, which is why we're going through this transformation again, we're talking about tonight, where women are regaining and opening their eyes and seeing who they really are, who they've always been. And men like myself, who are not afraid of that, welcome it. Because you're not going to be arguing over, well, who's in charge of what, and you need to be honor just me, and I need to have all. That's not the way it ever really was. Man created that in order for insecure men who didn't have good self-esteem to put their foot on the woman's head and tell her, well, I run the house because God told me I could run the house, and I'm in charge of this stuff. Okay. God didn't even run anything himself. There was a female. God is a woman, if we're going to just really say this. If you have a deity that you believe in, that's an entity that's in your life, she's a female. This universe is a female. Everything is creation. Man can't create anything. It's all woman oriented. The moon, earth, every planet out there is woman led. There's no man that create anything. Everything that man created came out of, I told you the story of Zeus where he created his daughter just out of thought, came out inside his head, and all of a sudden he's got a daughter. Or a Holy Spirit just visited this 14-year-old, supposedly, when she was, that's an underage girl, but for some reason, it's talking to her about having a baby. Now, it's a spirit, so how is it inseminating her without physically touching her? You see, the material in the metaphysical thing does not actually blend together. There are stories in the Bible that tells you that they do, but then when you try to tell somebody that you saw a ghost or something like that, they're like, no, you can't believe in ghosts. Ghosts don't exist. Okay, well, Jesus died on the cross and came back 3 days later as a ghost. As a ghost. You think somebody walked up, they said somebody walked, the disciples, he said, hey, put your finger through my skin and you see. That's it. Come on, that's metaphysical. That's the spirit becoming physical. But if somebody tells you a story, if they engage with a ghost like that, you won't believe them. You're like, oh, no, that's blasphemy. Well, let me end my little section. I'll let you come back here and carry on this one. Saul, which was Paul, two different, that's same people, right? Okay, he tells you he has a vision while he was walking on the road and he met Jesus. He didn't say I physically met Jesus. He said I had a vision and I met Jesus. But here's something else that's going to knock your socks off. This people always run around witchcraft this, witchcraft that. Saul, because God wasn't talking to him, for some reason God stopped talking to him. He was about to enter a war. He was trying to get some information on his battle plans of how to defeat this army. But for some reason God went absent on it, so it wasn't talking to him. So guess what Saul did? he goes to the witch of Endor. This is in your Bible if you read it. So he wanted the witch of Endor, is what they called her, to tell him how to defeat this army. He defeated the army from the witch's advice, not God's, but the witch's advice. Now, if the witch was so bad, why would God not talk to Saul, give him the plans that he needed to defeat this army with, and then why would he allow him to go talk to the witch if she's supposed to be that bad? I know we always have his reasons that God does things, okay? So I don't want to really get into that part of it. But I'm just showing you that all of this stuff is connected. There's no separation point between that story and the rest of the Bible, where there is like the same kind of thing is going on, but it's not called that. It's called something else. It's called divine intervention or vision or something else, but it's the same thing. You can't run away from that part of it. See, it's always been blocks of it where you ran, but you can't do that in this era because everything is out in the open. So there's not going to be any going back to where we're going to put women back in a box and we're going to burn them at the stake and punish them for, no, that's all over with. That's over with. That's done. So I would like for women to step into their power, own their power, be who you are. As we just said, Joan just said, mindfulness, that's simply to be. If you own who you are, your transformation can be complete. So own yourself. You call yourself a woman, even with the political crap of what is a woman, that's a silly question. That's a stupid question. What is it? We all know what a woman is. She's a creator. That's all you have to say. This world works because you create the stuff that goes on in it. All the material stuff that's in it, that's nothing. That can be redone. You ladies can do that if they're allowed to. If they're allowed to. But here's the thing. Be who you are and everything that you want.
Yeah, that's it.
You can have. I promise you can have it. All you got to do is believe that you're capable of doing it. And I know Karen and Joan are going to talk a little bit about this, but you can possess everything that you think that you cannot. You don't have to beg for it. Manifest it. Jesus tells you himself in the Bible that he speaks it into existence. That's manifestation. Now, if you believe in Jesus, how come you can't? And he tells you you are a God too, but then you got people telling you, well, you can't possibly be a God because there's only one God. God tells you himself you are God. So what are you talking about? It's in the Bible. And if you take what's written in the Bible as literal, then what are you questioning? Where's the question mark at? Where's the question? You are what you are. Be what you are. If you own that, then everything that you ever wanted, you can have. That's what I'm telling you. Do not hide in the bush. You don't have any reason to do that anymore. Step out of the bush, move yourself forward, and own what you are. Everything that you are, own it, and your transformation is complete. Okay, ladies, back to you.
That was quite a piece. But no, you're right. Be who you are. Own it. Own it.
Absolutely.
Know yourself. Be you. Be who you are. Focus because you're already focused on your self-discovery. You've dealt with your past. You went through healing. Came through all your traumas and everything, and now you're standing in a strong space in knowing who you are because you're moving. You know who you are. You know what things that you would like to go after. You're moving in a different trajectory, and
Yes.
so you're moving forward to attain. What is it? Your mindset is in the right place because you are operating from a growth mindset. You move past beyond the limited beliefs, right? And you've already set the tone. What are you going after? So
What
that
are
you
you
can
going after?
achieve and live your best life.
Yes. Yes.
You see, many times what really happened with us is because, as John rightfully said, is the belief system that we came under,
That's
you
right.
know, and the belief system cloud our judgment.
Very much.
And we're not able to process and to understand exactly who we are. And because of that, we've been led in so many other directions.
That's true.
And when we go in these different directions, we become very confused. And as we spin out into these directions, we become less of ourselves,
That's right.
you know.
Right.
So that is why we need to take the time and put in the necessary work in order for us to really understand who we are,
Ask the questions.
you know.
Who are you?
And once we do that, we can able to stand on a foundation that
Yes.
no one can shift. You know, words can shift you. Anytime you see that the foundation that you're standing on and it start to shake and it start to shift, things start to trigger you, things bringing up and it's people saying things and it's triggering you and
Yeah.
making you uncomfortable and all of that, you got to revisit the past.
Right.
You
And
got to revisit the
and
past.
and
Yes.
sometimes when we want to talk about limited beliefs and those things coming from the past, we were taught what we're given what they know of it in the past. But as we continue to grow and advance and being expressed by open mindset, growth mindset is important, and we can make changes for ourselves, right? Because
Yeah.
we're attaining new skills, we're inculcating new skills, and so we're able to come advance ourselves to a new level of understanding so that we can look, okay, then I do not need that because that does not serve me well. And so
Right.
then because with AI and everything that with technology that we are exposed to now, we can make the better choices. And so we can advance forward doing the self work and know who we are and who we want to continue to become and live our best lives. But it's important to make those choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to, you know, we have to understand within ourselves that we have a choice. We can make choices.
Yes.
And whatever choices we make, we have consequences with the choices.
They do. They do.
You
Yeah.
know, whichever choice you make for yourself, you have to face the consequences with the choice. You
Yes.
What are
can't
you
blame nobody
choosing?
else. But
What are you choosing?
many times we make choices and we end up blaming people for the
Mm,
choices we make,
right, right, right.
Yes.
you know, not knowing we are the persons who make that choice. That is why you have to understand who you are. And when you get into spaces or situations and things don't work the way it's supposed to work, you got to look within yourself, see what you need to learn from that experience, see what you need to learn from that situation so you can move forward. Things
Yes.
happen for a reason.
Right.
Things
All the time.
happen in our lives for a reason. And we cannot run away from that because when you run, you're going to run right back into it. It's going to keep running after you until you get the
Sure.
message.
Right.
You know, it's going to be a cycle. That is why you find a lot of people, it's in a cycle all the time because they don't want to do the inner work. They don't want to pause. They don't want to go to that place of self awareness.
Yeah.
They're casting judgment all the time on people who are around them. They look for
Uh,
people to cast the judgment all the time, not realizing that you are the individual. You got to look internal. It all starts internal before you can really understand the external.
that's
When
right.
you understand the internal, you will understand the external. And when you understand the external, you have the choice to remove yourself from situations, places, when you understand the external. Right, well?
That's right.
But
That
but
doesn't fit that any better.
I
Could
was
not have
just
said
gonna
any.
jump in there too
Go
as well
ahead,
with
Joe.
a point as well because that is why the art of letting go is so important.
Really. Really.
Mhm.
Because when you're able to let go what is
But you
not
can't let
serving
go.
you
You
well.
can't, Joan, you cannot, Lady J, you cannot let go what you don't understand.
No, but
Oh,
yeah,
you got a
that
good
could be
point
that
there.
too. But if you feel in a space which if we're talking about space and to experience a level of transformation,
Right.
we have that level of emotion and that level of energy and that level of vibration. So you know what is not making you feel right, right? You know what's
Right.
not making
Right.
you feel right. It's uncomfortable. It's a space that every time you are within that space, you don't feel good. It's not a space of elevation, right? And
Right.
so then you have to make the decision. And as we talk about the choices to make, because then you say, every time I enter this space, it don't make me feel good. I don't feel good, right?
Yeah.
And so then that's I think that's a time where you just have to let it go.
And
That's
you
true.
see, something
Go
just
ahead,
came
lady.
up too, right? Our
Mhm.
self-talk,
Yeah, in a
Yeah.
dialogue.
our
Yeah.
inner dialogue. It is very, very important. But again, you got to understand, you got to understand. Once you understand yourself, you can able to make the changes that is necessary for your life. you
Right.
know and another point I would like to bring up here too before I toss the mic to Will is that when we have our families, right, we chose those families.
Right. Right.
Our soul chose those families, right?
Right.
And we it's for a particular reason.
Right.
That is why the soul chose the family to born into that family. You chose your mother because you want to understand certain things about that aspect of
Right.
life. The soul want to understand that. It's either to transform the person or the person to transform you.
Mm-hmm.
It's either way, right?
Right.
But the
You're
thing
right.
is that we as individuals, again, because we don't understand, we tend to judgment, we blame, we
Mm-hmm.
curse people out. So many things happen, and you always have to come to that place and learn to listen.
That's true too.
Because a lot of times we don't want to listen. We listening not to understand. Because sometimes when you're having conversation with people, they're quick to jump. They're not listening.
Yes.
They're only trying to hear what they want to hear, and it trigger them, and they jump.
Yes,
you
they
know.
do. They're running.
But you gotta listen to understand what the message the person is trying to give to you, because there's always a message when somebody is speaking to you. There is a message,
Yes.
and we always have to listen for that message, what that person is really saying. Right, Will?
Absolutely. 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 You know, what you just said there is basically surrounding the subconscious mind, doubt, judgment,
Yes.
self-judgment. That's where that comes from, the subconscious, right? And so when you're transforming, if you're not fully aware of you and simply being you, then you're, as you just said, Lady K, you're running. You're trying to get away from hearing the processes in your subconscious saying you can't possibly do this. Who you think you are? That's the not understanding who you are, not understanding what you are, how to deal with processes like that. So you have to shut the subconscious mind down. That's why when I speak, I try to speak directly to your subconscious to where you can tap this energy into that and push that self doubt down. You got to push it down. You know, because I'm a big believer in women's rights and women having their opportunities. And so then, from that perspective of it, you want to see women excel, not push them down or cower down to men's. Uh, Men have power, but it's only been given to men by the people who are around. Because true power is something that everybody possesses, but people don't utilize it to its fullest ability from themselves. They think they don't have any because you've been told that. Like you've heard the story about the president of the United States being the most powerful man in the world. That's not true. That's propaganda. We have we have a nice military that's basically supported from the air, but we don't have advantages against Russia or China in the air. So you're never going to see us match up head to head with them because we can't defeat them from the air. They have the same weaponry that we have. So you're not going to see us match up against them. But a lesser country that don't have a military air support system that we do, oh, yeah, we'll bomb them all day long and talk crap about, hey, yeah, you're either going to line up with us or we're going to keep bombing you. But what's going on as we go through this transition or transformation, Russia and China have now told those smaller countries, hey, look here, until you can build you a nuclear bomb that will deter people from trying to bully you because they want you to do what they want you to do, we'll support you. So that's why you're not going to see us just continually bombing any one country or deal with anything like that, because that's going to bring China and Russia into this, and they're going to act as a team. It's not going to be just one of them. They're coming together. So when they come together versus our military, it's not even a close matchup. I mean, we talk a lot of propaganda about the military of the United States being the most powerful military ever existed in the world. That's not true. That's propaganda too. Again, if that were true, ISIS wouldn't still exist. Taliban wouldn't still exist. Those people fought us on the ground. We couldn't put them away on the ground and ground head-to-head war. We couldn't put those organizations out of submission. We couldn't make them give up. So we bombed them from the air. And actually, if you look at what's coming from the air is in the Bible, that's a term that reflects or talks about reflection of the devil. The devil will come from the air. So that's why we use bombs on people in our military so strong, because again, what I tell you, Moses had a snake on his staff. And if you look at our money, if you look at it real close, and I got an article up on LinkedIn right now with a dollar bill that shows you the serpent on the dollar bill. He's facing you curled up with his back out. That tells you what Moses and the staff was and what God told Moses. If you put the staff forward, the people that look at the snake, the serpent he called him, will live forever. Why would he tell him if you're looking at the serpent that you'll live forever? Not him, not God, but the serpent. And the serpent, according to the Bible, is the God of the earth. So if that part is supposed to be believed as absolute truth, then God has no place on earth, because the earth is already contained by who? Supposedly the devil. If the devil is the ruler or the God of earth, then there's no place for a God from heaven to come down here and take it over. He can't do that. Those two things conflict with one another. How do you make them make sense? You can't. You can't make them make sense.
But how can we as a person, a human being, we stay empowered?
We stay empowered by basically what you said earlier, going through your transformation phase here. You are everything that you need. Once you embrace that, then you understand that everything that you desire, you can create. You are the creator. You do it. It's not coming from someplace outside of you. You are it. All you got to do is come, put your mind to what you want to accomplish, and then you take the necessary steps to enact those processes to make them happen. And as you start to move forward, all three of us have said this on previous shows. Once you start moving forward under the sense of belief, people and things will start to come towards you as you make progress forward. Those things will come. You don't even have to see them. That's where the spirituality comes in. You don't have to see everything that you need immediately. And that's part of transformation. You won't see everything. That's part of the flow state. You won't see all of it, but it will be coming to you, because your belief system will take, you have to have a belief system to do this. If you don't have a belief system, you just have a faith system, that will take you only so far. At some point, you're going to be faced with faith or belief. They're two different things. They're not the same thing. You can't even try to blend those two together. Belief can be recreated. Faith can't not be recreated. It can't be recreated.
Sure.
Belief, you can recreate again. If somebody else has done it before, you can do it again. Whereas with faith, what are you repeating? You can't. So once you start to move forward, you take your power back. Lady J, that's what we're talking about. You have to embrace you enough to simply be you, accept you in full extent to what you are, flaws and all, then you'll be fine.
All of it.
You'll be fine. Then
All of
see,
it.
we have a deal in it. If you take the Ten Commandments, you're flawed. You come into the world as a flawed being.
Right.
Now, if you're already flawed, then where can you go from there?
Mm-hmm.
There's no place for you to go. So why are you looking at the commandments if you already come into a world that you're supposed to be flawed in? Then what does the commandments actually mean? Nothing. They don't mean anything because
Right.
you're already flawed and you can't possibly move beyond those flaws that you came into the
Right.
world with. So
Mm-hmm.
what are you trying to work toward? If you actually buy into that system, then that's going to keep you trapped.
Sure. Keep you trapped. Hi,
So you have to
Zion.
embrace your power in order to obtain things. Look, nobody's
Yeah.
blessing somebody with more riches than you or something of that nature. The riches are coming from you. I've met a lot of ministers in my time, but I've never met one that their money has come from God. They claim it has, but it's coming from the people that's tithing in that church.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the money is coming from. Tell those people to quit giving up their 10%, and then let's see how much money that church has. Let's just see how much it'll gain at that point. And if you look again in your Bible again, Jesus' ministry was sustained by women. Women
Mm-hmm.
supported that ministry. Not God wasn't giving them any money. The women were feeding them, housing, they're paying for the housing that they were living in. They were just walking around preaching the word. The
Mm-hmm.
women made that process happen because they paid for the food, the transportation, where they were going to stay. Women did that. So why do they not want women to speak? In the Bible, it tells you women are to be seen but not heard. So no, you can't possibly be a minister. Why are we listening to you? You don't know anything. It tells you that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have women that will bow down to that, thinking that some kind of way they're being covered when they're already being told to shut up, sit over there, and that's all we need you for.
Mm-hmm.
Give us your money, but there's nothing else. We don't want to hear anything else from you. So out of all the stories that's in there, that is the one that should stand out most to women because that's telling you you're not worthy of actually being able to be seen, lead, or anything of that nature. But we want your money though. No, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, no, no. We're in a different era now. So women, again, take your power back and own who
They
you
are.
are.
I think women
Come on.
are taking their power back.
Yeah. That's what that's
They're
what that's
standing
what we
tall and they're standing
that's what we
strong.
need. That's what we need. That's the economy moving forward. It's going to be women led, and men who are challenged by that, well, they're just going to be left behind. They have to figure out who they are. Once they know who they are, then they don't feel threat from a woman.
Well, I think it comes down to all of us knowing who we are,
Oh yeah,
right?
it's
Whether
it's going
whether
to take
we are
all of us
male or
to
female.
succeed in this. Yes, for the world to actually
You're
function
self
in the
assured.
manner where we're supposed to be at in this time period, it's going to take
Mm-hmm.
all of us working together to do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Right, working together
Absolutely,
and having a
absolutely.
level of confidence too, self
Yes,
assured.
yes. But see, that can only happen if people are not trying to tear other people down.
No, that's true too. Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so encouragement is a powerful thing.
It
So
is.
speak that into people. The words have power, so don't ever mistake that. I've said this when I speak. That's what I'm speaking from.
Mm-hmm.
Words have power. In the beginning was the Word, not God. Word. Word creates. So guess who? Word created God, not the other way around. In the beginning was the Word. Then it says the Word was with God, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if that was the case, in the beginning there was God and then the Word. So you already been told the secret. Like I told you, the Bible is a coded book. Once you read it and you really understand the secrets of it, it speaks in parables. Jesus tells you that I speak, you don't hear, you'll see, but you won't understand. He's telling you that he's speaking in code for a group of people that's supposed to understand the messages within it, and then for everybody else, you just kind of left that. That's what a cult. That's what happens in cult groups is they speak in terms of their little group, knowing what is being said, but you don't know what's being said, or they speak in signs to one another. We all know of a certain group that's global that speak through hand signs. You can see it in our Congress and so forth. They shake hands a certain type of way, and stuff like that, or hidden, hide a hand underneath the arm. That's called a hidden hand. So there's little secrets that are subtle, but there's signals to another person that you are a member of the gang, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have to get to where everybody understands what's happening and quit being in the dark and being afraid of it. The dark is very good. The Bible tells you to be light at night and dark in the day. For you move between both simultaneously, and they're not different. You have to embrace your shadow. And people run from. Karen mentioned this earlier. People run from their shadows, but once you embrace your shadow, you're not afraid any longer. And once you embrace the dark side of you, now the full you can exist because you're no longer afraid of the parts of you that you think you should be afraid of. Those parts are good too because that's where your creative thoughts come from, and some other parts of you that you need from time to time that you're pushing to the back because you're running from it, saying, "Well, I just need to be light. That's all I need to be is just some light." No. You have to embrace both sides of you. Both sides you have to be embraced. And once you do that, now you can be a complete person. Because now you're fully aware that who you are, what you exist for, your purpose, all of that starts to come into play at that time. You have people all the time questioning, well, what's my purpose? I don't know my purpose. Because you're too busy running from your dark side. Embrace your shadow and your purpose will become very clear to you. You'll know what you're here for.
Embrace your shadow.
On point. On point.
Embrace your shadow.
On point. Like that. Embrace your shadow. I myself and Joan, we got an article up on LinkedIn,
right,
that things grow in the dark,
Yeah.
When you plant a seed, it goes underground,
That's true.
So when you want to create,
analogy. That's a good analogy.
So when you want to create something, it starts from in here. You can't see it. It's in the dark. You can't see inside of here. So the creation happened within here. Here is where it happened, in the dark, and then it comes out. So it happens within you in the dark, and many times it's, you're doing this now. It happened in here before it came out,
It takes time. It's a process.
The thing is that we always got to go back to nature, because nature really helps us understand who we are. Depending on how you look at it. It all depends on how we look at nature. But nature teaches us so much of things about ourselves. Because, for instance, look at a seed. All the beautiful things that you see, it starts from a seed, and where the growth start to happen? In the dark. In the dark. So we now got to realize in order for us to grow, we got to embrace the dark side of us.
Have to.
If we don't embrace that, you can't experience the growth that you're looking for. So back to nature. Nature is teaching us exactly how we should live our lives.
Yes.
But we're not paying it. It looks so simple, but it is so much meaning in that for us to understand the depth of what nature is trying to teach us.
Absolutely.
And again, we have night and we have day. The night, we take our rest. When we take our rest, we get our dreams. We get so many things happen within the resting period, And when we wake up, we are faced with new stuff, because during the resting period, a lot of things is being birthed in the resting period.
Yes.
So when you wake up, you may have a dream, or you get a whisper, do this, do that, So we really need to embrace ourselves and understand ourselves. And once we can do that, we can able to move forward in a momentum that we're looking forward to move forward with. And the noises because it's a lot. When you start to transform and you start to pick up this momentum and you start to move, you're going to hear a lot of noise.
Yes.
You change. You're not the same person.
Uh-huh.
You know, you're going to hear a lot of noises. But I used to do this with you, but you don't want to do it anymore because I'm not that person. I'm
Right.
changed. I'm transformed. I'm not that person. Your values change. Your boundaries is going to change. It's so many things is going to start to change. But you do not have to put yourself in a box for nobody.
Shouldn't be. Should not
You
be.
have a choice. And the choice is if you want to move forward with your life, you have that choice to move forward with your life. The experiences that you had with that individual, that's done. It's finished. As you evolve, that experience is finished. That situation is finished. And you're going to evolve out from that situation.
Yes.
And it's quite okay, but do not curse your past. Do not judge your past because the past is what's going to take you forward. So don't judge it. Don't curse it. Gather everything you could gather from that past so you could move forward in your transitional periods of transformation. Right, Lady J?
Well said. You know, it's there is where the beauty is because it's a level of understanding.
Yeah, it is.
How do we look at life? What lens are we looking through? Right? And when we can,
sometimes you gotta adjust the lens.
sometimes you
That's
have to
true.
adjust the lens.
That's true.
Sometimes you gotta move in the dark. Sometimes you gotta look to see, well, what first. Then you gotta also know that if you're planting in fertile soil.
True. I like that.
Oh, oh, Lady J's gonna pull out the
There's a
farmer
big
in
gem.
us. Uh-oh.
There's a
What
big gem,
soil
Will.
are you planting in? Is it
Yeah,
fertile?
yeah,
True.
Because if the soil is fertile, that depends on what crop you're gonna harvest.
that's right.
That's the
That's
kind of
right.
crop you're gonna harvest.
Keep preaching, girl. I love it.
Yeah,
So then it depends now what choice you're making. Because
Yeah.
the kind of choice you make, and as I always like to say, are you choosing what is not choosing you?
Yes.
wait a minute, could you say
Because,
that again?
pardon me?
Yeah, could you say that again?
Right. What are you choosing? Are you choosing what is not choosing you?
Thank you, thank you.
Because because what are you choosing? It depends how your life will move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Where your vibration is, where your energy is, the level of impact that you're creating, all of that level of alignment comes into play. So as this conversation was so beautiful
Oh,
because
yes,
we
it
we, we
was.
dive into so many areas
It
because
was.
transformation, because change is good,
It is.
but transformation is what elevates us to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we transform, there's growth and development. There's
But
a new,
transformation come with experience too,
of
Yes,
course,
yes,
because as we move through this conversation, it comes with experience, everything we experienced in the past, the bad, the ugly, the highs, the lows, all of it, all of it. That is what get us, all of us, to reach where we are in the moment, right? So as we embrace all of that, we don't make any kind of judgment. We look
right?
at it, the guilt, the regrets, the rejections, the no's, all of it. That is what help us to propel us moving forward. Because that is what shape us. Because we've
Mm-hmm.
been through it. It's part of us.
yes.
How we
Mm-hmm.
decide to let that go, it's on us.
True.
If you want to keep it, carrying it in the suitcases, then we do. But if we lighten our load and said, yes, what experience have I learned in this moment? What I benefited from this moment? And then you pull what benefited you. You decide to carve your way forward. And what does not serve you well, then you leave, you let it go, and you make peace with that moment.
Sure.
And you said it was once good in that moment, but now because I've grown with growth and evolution and I expanded and I've learned so much now where life has placed me in the moment, I'm not the person that I was before. I'm living my highest self. A lot of change in me. I'm not the same person. And who I am today is not who I was yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm stronger,
Right.
I'm better, I'm moving with it. I've attained a level of resilience.
I'm living a life of
I'm
alignment.
living a life of alignment. Thank you.
There you go.
I'm
There
living
you
a
go.
life of alignment. I'm walking differently. I'm able to show myself grace, what I've been through, right? I'm able to show myself love and compassion. I've worked in my self discovery and I'm stepping in a new level of my life. And because you work through all of that, you're leaning into your inner being, you're allowing your intuition to guide you, you have a sense of inner knowing, and all of that you come with. You're stronger, you're wiser, you're living your best, you're aspiring for more. And you know that you're capable because your I am is in alignment as well. And you tapping into something special. You know who you are, and as Will spoke about that divine flow, you're able to attain all of that. And when you can walk in that kind of space and have that level of flow because you're tapping into something special, you're in a different space in your life because you're walking in your higher self. You're different. And you're able to attain and go after all the goals and go after all the dreams that you're aspiring for.
Mm-hmm.
So, Will, you spoke to our subconscious tonight. You've dived deep into the subject matter and you brought a level of clarity to what confirmation is and how we should look when we're looking at the past and move ourselves forward in a new trajectory as we continue to step in 2025 and moving forward to attain everything that we're going after because we are capable to achieve everything, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So, it's a
Yeah.
true honor to share space with you and to all the viewers and the listeners and the audience and who's going to tap in to the replay. It's a good
Yes.
show because there is so much valuable information for share here tonight.
Absolutely. This is a good show. I thoroughly enjoyed the topic and us interchanging ideas and concepts among ourselves here, and the audience
Mhm.
listening in and also chiming in with commentary. Um, it was good. You know, let me say this before I don't know if we're almost at the end of the show or not, but let me say this. In Revelations 12, 1 through 17, right? It says this about women. You know, I've spent probably the last 15, 20 minutes concentrating on women because men, we as a species are going to have to grow some more as well as these women are starting to come back into their power and understand who they are. We can't be challenged by that. And
Right.
those of us who already know who we are not challenged by that. But for those who are
Right.
splitting off and splintering off and saying, I don't need women and then I'm going to go do my own thing, we already talked about that enough that that's not something that you can do on a long term basis. So, not listening to any of that silliness. But in Revelation 12, 1 through 17, a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon was under her feet. That's what time we're in. So whatever men are not prepared, find you a rock to climb under because these women are coming through and they're going to make some drag some major changes in the way we live this life on a daily basis. And so we're still going to have a bunch of men standing around saying, not on my watch. But you're going to get ran over if you're in the way, because it's their time and everything changes. Nothing stays the same. So
Mhm.
it's their time to regain their power. And whether you like it or not, you need to understand who you are, and you can merge with these women that's on their way forward, and you can be part of the process and the solution. Otherwise, you're going to be part of the problem. And if you want to be part of the problem, that's fine. But you won't have access to the women who are moving forward, though. And those are the women you're going to want to have access to. Like I said, whenever we do this show pertaining to male female energy, I got some very good stuff that we're going to discuss among the three of us. Or you want to add some more people to the panel when we do
Yeah, we
this
can
show.
bring,
But
bring
it's
some
going to be a
men and
powerful
let's
show.
hear their perspective too. And let's throw
Yeah,
in some
it's
women
going to be
as
a
well.
powerful show.
So
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that show. But I just want to throw that in because transformation is female energy.
mhm.
It's divine and it's creative. And so men have aspects of them that carry female energy, and women have aspects of them that carry male
Right,
energy, right? And
right.
so these two things are interconnected. So that's why we as a species have to always be interconnected and moving forward as a couple, so to speak. Okay? We have to be aligned to move forward, because the world that's ahead of us is going to be so much different than anything we've ever seen in this lifetime and the lifetime that's coming forward. There's going to be a female president of the United States coming up. Probably in this next election, we're not going to have the same president. He's going to get voted out. And at midterms, he's basically walking dead president, because the, the Congress is going to flip. And so once it flips in midterm, then he's walking dead president for another 2 years if he lasts that long. But at any rate, what's coming is female energy. And so whoever don't like that, instead of embracing the female energy that's within you, you'll understand this process then, and you won't be challenged by it. And if you do that, then you can see what the future is going to hold for you too. So you're not getting put out of your position. If these women obtain power and gain their positions, you're not going to be put to the side and say, well, okay, there's no place for you here in this world now. We got this. There's going to always be a place for men in this world, always, and a need for it. Now, this provide and protect thing, that came from dogma too, because that's part of the Bible, you know, indoctrination system, to where man was put in charge of everything, and the woman was just, like I said before, just kind of exists, just sitting over to the side, don't say much. We just need some babies from you and some food. That's it. So, but that came from that system. That system is now being put aside, and it's going to always be some form of religion here. I don't want to get anybody upset to where they think that, okay, what are we supposed to replace? It's going to be replaced with a new version of it. It has to update it. We can't keep moving forward with something that was written 2,000 years ago, and we're in a jet age existence now. That has to be replaced at some point, but we can't let AI replace it. And like I said, AI has written its own Bible, has about 1 million followers already gathered that's following it as a deity. It has its own religion. And so religion will be not completely replaced, but the Bible itself is going to be more understood by people than it has ever been before, where now you're going to be able to see what's actually wrote between those lines. You understand more and know that what was written wasn't put in place for you to obtain the things that you say you want to gain from being a part of that religion. We have almost 3,000 religions globally, and so all of them proclaiming that their deity is the one and true this or that, or the only one of this or that. But in the Bible itself, it speaks of God saying that there are other gods. So he's a jealous God, if you could, believe that it's a he, but it's a jealous God. So why would it be insecure if that was the case? If it was the most powerful being to exist, it wouldn't have any insecurities, So it's going to be a version of it that exists, but it's going to be in a smaller context, and you can already see the numbers are steadily dropping. So it's going to be still here, but it's not going to be remade to where it can control people and contain people and make them feel fearful about life itself. There are going to be different variations of it that's going to come out of this time, that's going to strengthen you, let you be who you are, and not try to push you down to where you either do it this way or you don't exist, or we're going to, you're going to hell and burn forever, and that kind of thing. It's not going to be that kind of stuff anymore. That's what we're moving away from. So don't be afraid of what's coming and the change that's happening. It's better for you in the long run that you understand what the Bible actually is and why people like myself don't fear the Bible. We understand what it is. I read the Bible almost every day, but not in the context of worshiping something or kneeling down to something or being afraid of something. I read it in the context and use it in my speeches in the context of opening your eyes to where you can see what's going on. I'm not asking you to make a decision one way or the other, because when you start going through transformation, both of these ladies already covered this, that you're going to be challenged about you making a change. As you go through the transformation, you have to be strong in who you are. That's why we kept talking for the last 15 minutes or so, kept talking about who you are, be who you are, believe in you, own yourself.
Right.
Because we're trying to tell you that that's what it's going to take for you to embrace a transformation and actually maintain it moving forward to where it becomes a natural part of who you are moving forward into the future. Otherwise, you're going to revert back to what you were, and that you're going to stay in that little comfortable box and say, well, this is good enough for me. I guess I can't go any further. That's only because you've limited yourself. You know, you hate to hear people say that you get to a certain age and you can't change. Both of these ladies at the beginning of this show, we covered this, said that you are always open and available to change and growth. But you have to want those things.
You gotta want it, right?
If you don't, well, of course you can't change, you know. But if you really want to change, if you want to grow your business in some sort of way or become more successful in your business or whatever you're doing, you have to make changes to do that. You can't stay in a little box and expect for that to happen for you, because the world is moving up. We talked about the speed of listening now and speaking. The world is moving at a much faster pace. This show that we just did, I think we've almost done a 2-hour show, and it seemed like we were just on for 30 minutes. Well, that's everything with the interaction between us that was so evenly flowing that the energy was like, okay, it's only been a few minutes, but look how much time has expired in the time that we began this show to where we're now getting close to closing it. And you can see that that's how the world is moving at a fast pace. So you have to speed yourself up in order to be able to make your transition and then maintain it. Don't slow down. Once you make the transition, stay at that speed.
Climb and maintain.
That is what it is.
Climb and maintain.
There you go. That's it. So maintain it. Maintain it.
You got to maintain it.
Wow. Well,
unless you're going to fall off.
This was such a... No, not at all. This was such a good discussion, you know, because there was a lot of clarity. There was a lot of gems drop here. And, you know, it's helping us to really understand transformation, and we can revisit the past in order to get some clarity to move forward. It's okay. It's just okay to revisit. So when you revisit, you can reframe, because when you revisit, you understand. So when you revisit that past, when you go there, you sit there, you process things. When you come out from that space now, you're able to have the clarity that you're looking for, and then you could able to reframe certain things now in your life. So this evening, if you know someone who could benefit from this podcast, we highly recommend that you share this podcast to them, you know, because it's all about helping an individual. Because many people are at a space of experiencing the process of transformation, but don't know what really is transformation. You know, things are happening in their life. It's like some people would say to us, they feel like though their life is a whirlwind, they're going through a turmoil, you know, and they don't really understand what's happening. But in order for us to move forward, things has to be disrupted. Things has to be disrupted in order for us to move forward. But is the disruptancy, feeling uncomfortable, that space we don't understand. So that is why the past, when you understand the past, you can understand why this disrupt is happening with your life right now, so you can able to move forward. So this coming week, sit with yourself. Sit with yourself. Watch yourself talk the things that you're telling yourselves, because words have tremendous power. So watch yourself talk. Understand yourself. Take the time to understand who you are. Take the time to understand why you're going through these experiences and these situations. Just sit back and take the time and ask yourself the question. Because it's okay to ask yourself. But when you ask, you got to listen. Because your higher self going to speak to you, but you got to listen when you ask. Because many times we ask and we don't listen, And sometimes you find that you may leave your house and you're going to the supermarket or wherever you're going, and you might meet a person, right? That person is just to give you a message for that period of time. You'll never see that person again. When that person show up in your life, some people just show up in our lives for like 10 minutes or 5 minutes. And it's just to give us a message, because we're asking for certain clarity. And that person may just show up in our life for 10, 5, 15 minutes. And that's it. You never see that person again, but the person bring the message for you. So the next thing, we got to be open. We got to be open. We got to be willing. We got to put in the action. As Joan like to say, the inspired action. We got to put in the action, because when we put in the action, and taking the action is realizing to yourself, you know what? I cannot do this on my own. I need to grab myself a coach. Because when you grab yourself a coach now, the coach can ask you the right questions to bring out what's in you. When you go to a coach, or when you come to myself or Joan, because we are certified holistic health and wellness coaches, we know exactly the questions to ask you to bring out what is there in you. You got the answers. You have all the answers. But it's the question. And when you ask the question, you got to pause. You got to think. Don't run quick to answer the question. Pause. Think before you answer. Because when that gap is helping you now to go into that subconscious mind and to see and to ravel out the things that you've been carrying around for years, doubting yourself, not believing in yourself. So when you go there now and then you start to uproot these things, we know it's not an easy process, but you need to uproot these things in order to move forward. You got to go there. You got to do some uprooting, because when you uproot, you really understand exactly what's happening to you as an individual, as a person. And when you start to go there, it starts to shape you. You start to mold into something totally different. But remember, it's not an easy process. It's not an easy process. And many times we don't want to go there. And we run away from it. We don't want to go through the uncomfortable process. But we need to go through this uncomfortable process in order to know who we are. It's a phase that we all have to go through. Many people, you see big stars and different things that you're seeing. People went through a process. Many motivational speakers, if you really know the story, their backstory, they didn't just arrive there. They had to go through the process to understand the self and know the purpose that they're here for. So we got to be willing to go through that process in order to arrive and understand with no judgment who we are. So this week, as we move into this week, we're into the 7th month of the year. Sit with yourself. Sit in silence. Sit with yourself. Because many people, it's very difficult for them to sit with themselves. It's very difficult. But you got to sit with yourself in order for you to get the clarity you're looking for. You got to find the time. Even if it's 1 hour a day, you got 24. If you can't do it, do 15. If you can't do 15, do 10. Start small and sit with yourself. We got beautiful days now. Go out into nature, take nature walks. And a lot of clarity. You're going to start getting a lot of clarity. Things that you're asking, you're going to start to get clarity. And a lot of times we get clarity and we doubt the clarity because we don't understand. And when you see things start to come to the surface, write it down. Write it down. Write it down. Because when we write, there is a power in writing. There is a power in writing. Because when we elevate, we can look back and say, you know what? I now understand why this happened. I now understand what my higher self was saying to me 2 years ago, 6 months ago, 2 weeks ago. I now understand why this was happening. So don't be afraid to sit with yourself. If you can't do it, grab yourself a coach. So the coach could help you to move forward and understand exactly what's happening with you. So we just want to thank you so much for joining us today. And Will, we want to thank you so much for always showing up in Soul Light and Butter or all the other spaces that we have. We just want to thank you so much because you know what? When you show up, you bring a lot of clarity. Some may understand, some may not understand, you know, but the ones who to get the message will get the message, you know. And the thing is that many times we are looking for answers, and sometimes you just turn on to a podcast like this podcast and you may get the answer that you're looking for, you know. So it's always good to subscribe. So subscribe to Soul Light and Body, because you never know when you're gonna have that aha moment. You never know when that moment is gonna come, because we have so many other platforms that we are doing so many other things, but it come under one umbrella of Soul Light and Body. So when you subscribe to Soul Light and Body, you have access to this other stuff. So be a part of Soul Light and Body, so you can have. I mean, you got some other stuff is coming up too. And the thing is that with Soul Light and Body, those who know and those who don't know, if you're just new joining us, when we start pretty small. We didn't know where Soul Light and Body was going. We had absolutely no idea. We just decided to start. We birthed something. We birthed it, and it take legs and start to move. And as it start to move, it gain momentum. So whatever you have within you, birth it. And it's going to take the momentum and it's going to start move. It's going to take legs and it's going to start move. So don't sit on your dreams. Birth it. Start small. People may criticize you. They may say different things. Do not worry with people. You know within you what you can do. Do not worry with what people are saying. You start small, whatever you have, your dreams, your aspirations that you really want to move forward in life with, don't sit in it. Get up and start. We are encouraging you today. Get up and start. Just start. You want to write that book? Start that manuscript. Start the manuscript. It's going to take legs. Ask for ideas. Ask your higher self to help you, or reach out to the right kind of people to help you to move forward. Just know that we love you all. We thank you, each and every one of you, for subscribing. We thank you for buying our books on Amazon. We thank you for all the great feedbacks that you give us every day. We really appreciate you. We love you so much. We are here for you. We are here to empower you. Don't forget to subscribe to our Soul Lighting. But as I said before, our magazines, we have the digital and we have the hard copy. So whichever part of the world that you live in, you can always get it each month. Drop it into your inbox. And they got some great articles. They got some great insights. People like Will Williams is writing an article for our next edition. So the thing is that we are trying to help you. And it's for free. You don't have to pay for the magazine. It's for free. So just subscribe and you're going to have that in your inbox. The persons who are living in America, once you subscribe, it's going to mail to your address and you're going to have that magazine. It's free of cost. It's free of cost. Because we love you, that is why we're doing it.
Living a life of service.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lady J. Living a life of service. And don't forget to check out 246 Bajan Vibes classified ads for the goods and services. And don't forget to reach out to Will Williams. He's on LinkedIn.
Yes, connect with him.
All his handles is in the footnotes, and reach out to him and connect with him. Have a conversation with him. You never know where the conversation is going to go.
Speak to your subconscious mind.
Absolutely.
The guy that will speak to his subconscious mind. Will Williams.
You are the divine. You are the divine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was just still closing out with my last thing there with the for the subconscious. You are the divine.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. Yeah.
Embrace your shadow.
Yep. Things start in the dark.
Absolutely, they do.
Growth starts in the dark.
Plant and fertile ground.
Exactly. Those are the couple of things that we're going to be leaving with you. Plant and fertile ground. Growth starts in the dark.
Don't choose what is not choosing you.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one.
And to the viewers, thank you once again for supporting us on all our platforms. Tk you so much. We really appreciate it.
It's always a joy.
Right, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on IG, on Facebook. Thank each and every one of you for supporting us, because you're part of our journey and we really appreciate you so much. Thank you. And have a wonderful week. See you here next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.